What's going on, everybody? My name is Justin Gotzi for the Football Source. Thank you so much for checking into another 2014 NFL Week 1 game recap video. We are now on to the Oakland Raiders on the road taking on the New York Jets, and this was a pretty back and forth kind of a battle against two teams that are currently in the struggling phase, trying to nail some things down on both sides of the ball. But you know what? This is nonetheless one of the most interesting games of the year due to how close it was, and a lot of people are really underestimating this game. When you really look into this, they have two young quarterbacks, Geno Smith taking on Derek Carr, who's making his NFL debut in the regular season. I don't think the preseason should really count, but nonetheless, Derek Carr is making his regular season debut for the Oakland Raiders, where everything matters. And this was a game which I was really into. It was all about, on the Oakland side of things, it was all about the passing game. It was all about the rushing game on the side of the New York Jets. It was pretty much a battle where it's a battle of the offenses. Both defenses really pulled up a good fight, but it was the New York Jets that broke away in the fourth quarter to secure a victory against the Oakland Raiders. This game was really, really close as the Jets defeat the Raiders 19-14. Derek Carr impressed me a whole lot in this game. 20 for 32, pretty accurate game for 151 yards and 2 touchdowns. He beat out Matt Schaub, who had just had a complete dreadful preseason. I would not feel comfortable with Matt Schaub being my starting quarterback going into the year. It is hard to swallow for Derek Carr to be 0-1 to start off his NFL career. A very much promising NFL career. I think Derek Carr is going to be one of those quarterbacks you guys want to watch in the near future, in the possible future quarterback of the Oakland Raiders going forward. When it comes to the rushing game on both sides of the ball, we'll get to the Geno Smith here, but before we get into the rushing game, I apologize. Geno Smith had a pretty interesting game. 23 for 28, very accurate for 221 yards and a touchdown. Michael Vick also saw time in this game. There's a lot of people who are going into these games and looking at Michael Vick as being the rightful starter for this team, because Geno Smith has not really came into these games and really put a much promising look in the Jets' future. Geno Smith is still pretty young. There's still a lot of room for him to grow. That's why they brought in Michael Vick. Michael Vick is mentoring Geno Smith at this time. Geno Smith has a lot to learn in the NFL. He did make a mistake today throwing one interception, but you know what? That's what happens in games. Geno Smith, they make those silly mistakes, and you gotta learn from it. Michael Vick is here to really calm Geno Smith down. Don't get a little bit too, over your head and disappointment. You gotta keep focused. You gotta go out there and win the next drive. That's what Michael Vick's there for in the New York Jets organization, is to provide that veteran leadership to a Geno Smith. And Michael Vick said it himself, this is Geno's team. This is not my team. It's Geno's team. It's Geno's time to shine. And you know what? Minus that interception, Geno Smith put a big smile on my face. 23 for 28, very accurate day for him. Chris Ivory did carry the majority workload, but the passing game was fantastic. Eric Decker making his Jets debut in the regular season, 5 receptions for 74 yards. They really spread the ball out today. Jeff Cumberland, 4 receptions for 50 yards. Cleary got a couple of catches, 5 receptions for 38 yards. Chris Johnson, the backup running back. Chris Ivory is always going to be that starter. I think Chris Ivory is a little bit more explosive than Chris Johnson right now. Chris Johnson goes to a team where it's very hard to get every down snaps. I think Chris Ivory already has that. When we look at the performance today, Chris Ivory is that likely running back to continue carrying the more bulk of the loads, and Chris Johnson will eventually, here and there, get a carry, or even start using him as a catching running back, and that's exactly what he did today. He got 5 receptions for 23 yards and got a touchdown. Chris Ivory, on the other hand, got a touchdown in the rushing game. So you got 2 excellent running backs at Geno Smith's disposal. So I think the future right now, the Jets do have a great talented team around them. Stephen Hill's no longer around them. I still think there's a lot of additions they really need to make down the line. Going into the draft, free agency for next year. I still think they should add in some more depth players. Bring in another wide receiver for Eric Decker to really work with, so that's not always on. They're always not counting on him. I think Jeff Cumberland is great, is good, but not great. I still think there's a lot of great talent in the next year's draft, like Deontay Greenberry is a wide receiver. I've always been thinking about going to the New York Jets to play alongside Eric Decker. Maybe that could be a possibility. But the Jets right now are looking pretty good. It's a very great start to the season with the victory. Derek Carr, like I said, it's very hard to swallow for your first worst game in the NFL for the regular season, but you're coming away with the loss. It's just a growing pain. You will eventually get your first win of the season, Derek Carr. Today is not your day. Back to the drawing board. The rushing game in Oakland was just not that great. Jones-Drew, Darren McFadden, nothing positive coming from them. Darren McFadden had 4 carries for 15 yards, averaging 3.8 yards per carry. Maurice Jones-Drew, on the other hand, 9 carries for 11 yards, averaging 1.2 yards per carry. Nothing great at all. Nothing positive coming from Maurice Jones-Drew or Darren McFadden here in the early goings of the season. I think this is the best running back core when it's on paper, but when performance-wise right now, Maurice Jones-Drew is not explosive as he once was. He's completely fallen off the face of this earth. Very disappointing. I really like Maurice Jones-Drew a whole lot. Darren McFadden as well. I think the Oakland Raiders could possibly be looking into another destination in the running back core, possibly in the coming years, probably at the end of this year. But you know what? This is not the start, not the way the Oakland Raiders want to start in their rushing game, as both of them were very ineffective today. Rod Streeter got a big praise today on the offense with the receiving core. Him and Jones, Rod Streeter got 5 receptions for 34 yards. As the wide receiver next to him, James Jones, coming over from the Green Bay Packers, got 3 receptions for 34 yards. Both Streeter and Jones got touchdowns, and like I said, nothing was really, and it was not enough to beat the New York Jets, who overall had a very great game. Sheldon Richardson put up some good numbers, and the Jets, start off the season with the victory. The Oakland Raiders, it's now back to the drawing board. So let me hear your guys' opinion about this. The Jets start the season with the victory over the Raiders, 19-14. Raiders, it's back to the drawing board. Jets continue, going forward. Hopefully they can start building off a winning streak off this victory, and down the line, maybe they can compete in this division. I'm Justin Gotze for the Football Source. Thank you so much for checking out today's Jets versus Raiders game recap, and I'll catch you guys in my next game